On this first day of the Gregorian calendar, year 2026, marking a 1 year in numerology, a new cycle begins. Soon to be a fire horse year by the Chinese calendar. Let me take you down a rabbit hole with me. One that I went on just over a month ago when I was recording the full moon video for December 4th, 2025, the full moon at 13 degrees and 4 minutes of Gemini. This video is a bit out of the ordinary for me. Took me a while to put it together. I hope you like it. I was very inspired to do this. I would like to also make note that there are 4 full moons in a row at 13 degrees. The first was on November 5th of the Gregorian calendar 2025 at 13 degrees, 23 minutes of Taurus. The second, the one that brought me to this awareness, December 4th, again at 13 degrees, 4 minutes of Gemini. The next one is just around the corner on January 3rd at 13 degrees and 2 minutes of Cancer. And then the one after that will be on February 1st at 13 degrees and 4 minutes of Leo. So 4 full moons all in a row. So that full moon again is illuminating, bringing a light to the consciousness, to our awareness of this feminine, of the feminine attributes returning and stabilizing. Number 4 is about order and bringing, securing it, stabilizing it, solidifying it. And that's how I see that. 4 in a row to bring it to our attention. Now let's rewind time then. Let's go through this and let me show you how I came to this conclusion. The things that I saw. Thanks for being here. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment. I'm really interested in hearing and reading and seeing your point of view. Beloved souls, it's Vivía at your soul's well. Mostly I will be spending time on the numerology of the number 13. And of course, breaking down and conveying to you what I see, because I really went down a rabbit hole on this one. And I just kept getting further and further down the rabbit hole. And I realized, gosh, I'm not doing this for my own leisure. I'm doing this because I desire to produce a video on this and release it to you. So I just had to stop doing the deep dives and produce the video. So I hope you like it. It's a bit different than what I usually do. And so let's get into it. Again, as a refresher, a full moon, the sun and the moon are always opposite each other in the sky, and they will be at the same degrees. You see here, the moon is at 13 degrees and 3 arc minutes in Gemini, and the sun is here at 13 degrees and 3 arc minutes of Sagittarius. This polarity deals with the difference between knowledge and wisdom. As with every full moon, there is a necessity to integrate. It's about integration. When points are at polarity opposites, then it's learning from the other, learning to integrate the opposition point, what the other has to teach. This whole chart to me is all about change. Gemini is all about change, and this is where the moon here is being illuminated, this moon at 13 degrees. And one thing to keep in mind that this is the last full moon. It's a super moon. It's the last one of the year. We will not have another full moon until Saturday, January 3rd of 2026 by the Gregorian calendar. So this is the natural placement of Gemini in the natural house. It's the 3rd house. Gemini itself, it's your day-to-day house. One of the things that is so important about this chart is that there's a grand cross that forms, and this is the most important, I believe, configuration of this whole chart. It is the grand cross that forms between the sun and moon in opposition, squaring the nodes of fate, the north node in Pisces at 13 degrees, and the south node in Virgo at 13 degrees. Robert Hahn called this bending the nodes. So anytime planets are in square, because these are 90 degrees, it's a grand square, or also known as a grand cross, right? So it's 90 degrees between each of these 4 planets or points. Now, anytime a planet squares the nodes, squares in general can be very conflicting. There could be, with the moon, lots of emotion that comes up, stuff from our past. It involves the south node, and things that we need to deal with and further integrate. This is another sign of integration, that we need to further integrate in order to move into our future here with the north node. Now, because the nodes are considered destined and karmic points, and then the square is creating this fiction point with them, it really amplifies this idea that it, like a prearranged experience that we will have collectively, but in our individual lives. And of course, in your individual life, it will depend on which house it falls, but on the collective, I'm seeing so much yes about change and yes information, but so much about time. Yes, time. And I will get to that. Like, I know that Saturn is the taskmaster, timekeeper of our solar system, but Gemini deals with your day-to-day life and your day-to-day time. You make an appointment, you look down at your watch, you have to get to that appointment. That's Gemini's domain. And this cross brings up a lot. And one of the things too that further enforces or reinforces the bending of the nodes is that the sun at 13 degrees of Sagittarius, it is conjunct what is known as the Great Attractor, which is found at 14 degrees and 20 minutes of Sagittarius. Now again, I'm a Western tropical astrologer, so these are tropical placements. And it's located in what is known as the Lakia, the Lan Akia supercluster. It's considered to be the heart of the galaxy. And there are some that even consider this the source of this section, this tiny section, or this corner of the universe. It does appear to be receding from us, also simultaneously drawing us in. It's a point, this is where I wanted to get to. It is this point that the mass is so incomprehensible that it bends light to such a degree that we can actually catch a glimpse of what is behind it. So it warps time and space. It warps our perception of it. It gives us an ability to see beyond what we normally can. And so that is like a doubling down of bending the nodes of fate, giving us insight, giving us this ability to see around the corner. It can help us access information from all timelines. It can help us jump timelines or view possibilities from different perceptions, experiences, and timelines. It is connected to our psychism, our intuition, to clairvoyance and precognition. Now, because the sun is conjuncting this, and the sun represents in a chart, it represents a lot in the collective, in the masses, on the world stage. It deals with leadership, people in positions of power, whether they're heads of state, heads of organizations, nations. In your own self, it deals with your masculine attributes, your goal-orientated, your purpose, your goals. They could be men in your life. Whereas the moon deals with the interior realm, the emotions, the psychology, the workings of your mind. And so when this sun is conjunct here, this point, one of the possibilities that's in our lives, it could draw us towards people who will help us grow and evolve through the archetypes and energies that are symbolic in this. The sun and the moon themselves are opposite in this polarity of masculine being the sun and feminine being the moon, but the moon is also placed in Venus's decan and the sun is placed in Mars. So that's, again, just another point demonstrating this polarity point of integration. What I really want to talk about in this chart, the very, very first thing I saw when I looked at this chart was that the degree of the moon at 13 degrees. Now, 13, so we're going to just do a little bit of a deep dive into the number 13. I hope you're ready for this ride because I actually had a great lot of fun. I stayed up very late, almost all night long, trying to get this done. And I actually had a lot of fun, so maybe I'll do it again. I mean, I've known about a lot of this information for a long time, but it was kind of put on a back, like I shelved it for a while because it was just information that I don't know. I'm just ready to share some of this knowledge. Many of you already know all this stuff. This isn't going to be anything new for you, but I'm just putting it together this way. But just Just saying, that's all. The number 13 is perhaps the most occulted and vilified number. And that is not by chance. It has been depicted as a bad luck number, unholy, and relating to the devil or to Satan. And nothing really could be further from the truth. But actually what it is a very powerful number of life, creation, the divine feminine, of transformation and rebirth. It relates to the divine feminine in that the female body, the feminine body, has one more gate or portal to her than does man. The man, the divine masculine, has 12, and the female body has 13, that being vagina, having one more opening, that which brings life. It is the portal that allows the entrance of souls into the physical incarnation. The divine feminine represents the unconscious, the anima. Everything unconscious is and hidden from view that is dark, not dark meaning bad or evil, but dark meaning that there isn't light. This unconsciousness is all the realm of the moon. It's represented in astrology by the moon. Now, everything that is hidden from view is meant to be brought up to our conscious awareness, which in astrology is represented by the sun. This number 13 represents, therefore, life. It represents the Holy Spirit that flows through all things. It is the individuated self that is said to be composed of 12 powers. And I want you just to keep that in mind for a minute, because I'll come back to this. And plus our individual soul essence making up the sacred number 13. The Catholic Church considered Mother Mary to be represented by the number 13. Now, some accounts do say so was Mary Magdalene. Groups and gatherings are said to be at their maximum potency when there are 13 members. Hence the reason why covens have 13 members and why the number 13 is associated with witches. I particularly do not like that word, witches, and that is another rabbit hole for another day. Just wanted to add that in. Christ and his 12 apostles being one of these powerful groups of 13. Some accounts have Mary Magdalene as the 13th apostle or member, and some have Christ. You decide what to believe. Either way, there are 13 that are clearly depicted in the Bible. And note that the Last Supper had 13 attendees, Christ and his 12 disciples. Decks of cards have 4 suits, each with 13 cards. And that is not by chance either. And that is another rabbit hole I cannot go down today. Perhaps another time. According to the teachings of Ashiana, there are no junk DNA, only unawakened and dormant potential. There are not 2, but 12 strands of DNA within the human body, and for each strand awakened, the next level of dimensional awareness is accessible to the human. For example, currently on Earth, most humans have 2 strands of DNA awakened and active, and therefore we are living in the dimension above that, the 3rd dimension. And as we awaken each strand of DNA, more will become visible and accessible to us. And therefore, when we are fully awakened to the 12th strand of DNA, we would get to the 13th dimension of consciousness. And interestingly enough, every strand of DNA corresponds to a dormant ability, like telekinesis or teleportation, or all of the dormant abilities, some that we don't even know exist and have reference for. Now, this ties back to what I mentioned before about that we have the 12 powers of the human within the individuated self, and then the one soul making within us 13. Notably, this year and this year's December solstice is 13 years from the December solstice of 2012, a highly significant date in the Mayan calendar. And no, they did not say the world would end in 2012. That was a bunch of internet hype that a lot of people fell for. Rather, it demarcated the beginning of a new age for humanity. To the Mayans, it represented the end of linear time and the beginning of a new time, the galactic time, and the expansion into our galactic consciousness. It is about an age where the divine feminine would come back into the consciousness of humanity, and we would start to acknowledge and integrate these principles into our lives. It's about when humanity would begin to awaken and see reality for what it is, and when we start to deconstruct the old archaic ways that keep us from our highest growth and evolution. There are 13 weeks in each of our seasons, making 52 weeks per year. The moon orbits the earth 13 times per year. Women cycle 13 times per year, often in sync with the moon. On a 28-day cycle and ovulation period, pregnancy most often occurs 13 days after the first day of menstruation. The 13-month calendar starts every day is a Sunday. It starts on the 1st, and every 7th day is a Saturday. A really good example of this is the February 2026 calendar. Every single month would be exactly the same, 28 days of 13 months, making up 364 days. And there would be one day that would be called a day out of time, where there was no time, and it was a time of celebration and a time of reset. Other things that I want to mention about this number, the Knights Templar and the Cathars are both associated with this number. Some say it was the Cathars that were killed on Friday the 13th, and some say it was the Knights Templar. My guess is that it was both. So some accounts have that a significant number of Cathars were burned alive on Friday, May 13th, 1239 AD or CE, whichever you prefer. Other accounts have it that the Templars were rounded up and massacred on Friday the 13th in the year 1307, and thus beget the superstition that associated Friday the 13th with bad luck, when in actuality, Friday the 13th was a blessed day. Every single month of our year had one. Every second Friday of every month was a Friday the 13th. It fell on, as many of you know, Venus's day, further emphasizing harmony, creation, fertility, life, love, and the flourishing of the feminine. Flourishing and protection, I might add, of the feminine. So now back to our current calendar. First, the Julian calendar was introduced by Julius Caesar in about 45 BC or BCE, again, whichever you prefer. I don't really care. Over the next 1600 years or so, it became the dominant calendar, and that may have been something to do with they would have killed you if you didn't follow their system. In fact, they did kill many people that didn't follow their system, and it wasn't because the people wanted to follow that system. It was because you didn't have an option but to follow it if you wanted to live. That calendar was replaced in 1582 during the Gregorian reform by Pope Gregory VIII in order to introduce a more accurate time system. And I'm using air quotations here around more accurate. So see, even in their own books, they admit that their system of keeping time was not accurate. Imagine that. You invent an artificial calendar, base it on complete nonsense, and it doesn't work. Who would have thought? So their more accurate time system, again, using air quotations here, was to introduce the Gregorian calendar. And quite literally, you went to bed one night and it was one date, and the next day you woke up and it was 10 days later. They advanced the calendar and changed the date, and everybody had to follow the system just because they said so. From their own records, there was an accumulation of error in the Julian system. No doubt, that's what happens when you just arbitrarily invent a system that doesn't have any landing to our physicality, our reality, our cosmos. There was a seasonal misalignment that caused the vernal equinox to shift from its proper March 21st date to March 11th. So basically, they figured out the Julian calendar was 10 days out of sync with the solar year, and then they just changed it. And then over the next few hundred years, it began to be adopted by the different nations. First, it was adopted by the Catholic countries, and then it spread throughout the world. So you went to bed on Thursday, October 4th, and woke up the next day, the very next day, and it was Friday, October 15th. If that is not messed up, I don't know what is. So all of the native people of our world had a way of keeping time that used the sky as a reference, not some sporadic number system that didn't in any way connect with our true nature, cycles, and divinity. But particularly the Mayans had an exquisite and exceptionally accurate timekeeping system based on the stars, on the moon, on the sun. Again, not some random number system that makes no sense. Like October means 8, but it's our 10th month. November Oct means 8, but it's our 10th month. Nov means 9, but it's our 11th month. And dec for December means 10. And somehow it ended up being our 12th and last month of the crazy calendar system in popular use today. That's what I call it. So it was established by Pope Gregory VIII of the Vatican. And that word calendar comes from the root calendus, a Latin word which means account book. And get this, it became primarily used by the common layperson as not to be beheaded by the sword of a Roman soldier or crucified under the orders of that same Vatican. Oh, sorry. It was to know when to pay their taxes to the church and state. That is quite literally what this calendar was invented for, to keep tabs on what we, the people, owed. Sorry to burst the bubbles of those who don't already know, but no, the Vatican did not obtain its massive wealth through the graces of God. No. It got that wealth by pillaging, plundering, warring, and killing. Very often, innocent children were killed. And those Cathars and Templars they killed, the ones they labeled the heretics, they were just trying to protect what was rightfully theirs, their beliefs, their gold, their women and children, their elderly, as they had every right to do. You know, one of the beliefs they advocated for was for the Bible to be written in the lingua franca, so the common language, not in Latin, which was reserved only for the wealthy noble class. And I put that word noble in quotes too. And also the Cathars advocated that each person should have access to the Bible if they chose, not just the clergy, and that we didn't need a priest or a pope or some clergyman to access God, that we could do it within ourselves. So damn those heretics. And let us not forget the Inquisition, where in one day alone, an estimated 20,000 people were slaughtered. It is hard to get an accurate estimate of how many people were killed during the Inquisition that spanned over a century, from about 1209 of our current era to 1325 of our current era. But I do remember reading a book when I was really young that stated that millions of people were killed, and that's what I believe, that millions upon millions of innocent people were killed during the hundreds of years that spanned the Inquisition. Those witches, by the way, the ones they burned at the stake, the ones they tied to chairs and drowned, they were the healers, the midwives, the herbalists, the stragadonas you would go to in the woods when you needed somebody to help you with a sickness, all in the name of God. God, yeah, that's right, God. God wanted them to kill those people so the Vatican could take their gold and take control of the world. I'm obviously being sarcastic. One infamous story was during one of the first years of the armed assaults against the Cathars, where the town Abizir, I hope I pronounced that right, was ready to be attacked by the mercenaries of the Catholic Church. But some of the commanders were concerned that there was no way to know which of the people within would be the Cathars and which were Catholic. They asked their spiritual advisor, the Cistercian monk, Ornad Amari. Again, I hope I pronounced that right. He is said to have said, kill them all, for the Lord knows who are his. Yeah, kill them all and let God sort them out. Just absolutely horrible. Further to this, under the doctrine of discovery of 1582, this calendar was forced upon the newly found tribes of the Americas. All of the Americas had now to pay their dues to the Vatican. Yes, actually, dues to the Vatican on the first day of every month. And I would be remiss if I did not mention the transatlantic slave trade. You better bet this calendar was imposed upon the Africans too. I cannot imagine, I just cannot fathom having the thought that said you can go onto a land, any land, pick a land, and steal people, just take them, tear them away from their families, put them to work as slaves because you felt that you deserved that, because you thought you were a righteous, pious, God-fearing person. And that's why, what a stain on humanity. Absolute and complete insanity. And this isn't to hate on the USA. That's where a lot of people listening to this will go in their thought, because a lot of people do not know, but many other countries also participated in the slave trade. Like, for example, Brazil. Brazil had more slaves than the USA did. All those beautiful sugar plantations run by slaves or worked by slaves. Yeah, actually more slaves in Brazil than in the States during the cotton plantations. Many people think that the black-skinned people of Brazil are native to Brazil, and they're not. The black-skinned people were imported courtesy of the slave trade. The red-skinned were there naturally, and the white people invaded. Now, I say that, and I will also say this. You and I were not alive in this time period, any of these time periods, and you and I did not participate in these horrendous activities, and we are in no way responsible for them. Don't ever let anybody gaslight, virtue signal, or guilt you into believing that. But we are responsible for the choices we make today. Today, that's Gemini. And we can stop using a system, this crazy, nonsensical, calendric system that at the very least serves to keep us as a humanity whacked out and out of sync, and is a constant reminder of a past based in violence, propaganda, and force. I just cannot help to think that's what we support when we continue to use this calendar. Slavery, our own human slavery. And if I sound angry, it's the righteous indignation that we all should feel when we begin to realize how much the human species has been messed with, how much has been done to dumb us down and numb us out and keep us from our true inheritance. I am reminded of the quote by Abraham Maslow. In any given moment, we have two options: to step forward into growth or step back into safety. When doing some digging on this, I read that the Roman calendar was used before the Julian. But was it not the 13 moon, 28-day calendar that was used? Because we all know, or at least we should by now, that the history books are written by the victors. And what they like to leave out, their lies by omission, is that it was a 13 moon, 28-day calendar that was in common use prior to the Julian calendar. All of the peoples, no matter what corner of the earth we were on, followed the system. We have evidence that all of the natives of the world, you pick it, the natives of North America, Central America, South America, Australia, Africa, all used it. The Polynesians used it, and some still do. The Scots, the Druids, the Celtic, the Norse, all followed the system. It's almost as if they were all looking up at that one giant clock in the sky and using it to track time. Yeah, imagine that. Us all being connected and knowing that we are connected by something far greater than just ourselves. Many groups of people still use a calendar system based on the moon cycles, not just the Polynesians. Many tribes do. The Ethiopians use a 13-month calendar. Also, the Chinese follow a 13-month lunar calendar. And there is a Hebrew one as well, I am told. So I argue that the current calendar we use keeps us out of sync with nature, our true cycles and ways, and serves to continue to imprison us within a taxation, usury, and debt system that is so outdated and barbaric. Also, like the Julian calendar, the Gregorian calendar fails to keep time accurately, or at least as precisely as a 13 moon month, 28-day calendar, simply because it doesn't take into account the natural cycles of the earth, the moon, and the cosmos. And this has an enormous and not a positive, I might add, effect on the consciousness of humanity, leaving that calendar behind because it is artificial, irregular, completely crazy, with some months having 30 days, some having 31, February having 28, but not on leap year. Not on leap year, though. We just skip that day entirely. I mean, that especially, if people can't put that one together, I just don't know what to say. So not only will following the 28-day, 13-month calendar put us back in sync with our natural rhythms, but also we say no to a system of modern-day slavery that was forced upon us. And this is not just symbology. It goes much further and deeper than symbology. It actually does synchronize us to our lunar, solar, and galactic cycles, the galactic standard of time. And the importance of this and its effect on us cannot be understated. I am reminded of another quote that is adapted from the works of Nicaraguan poet Ernesto Cardenas. They tried to bury us, but they didn't know we were seeds. You know what I want to add to that? They tried to burn us, but like pine seeds, ignited our growth and populated a forest of light. They tried to drown us, but only nourished us with the water we needed to flourish. They had no idea that the winds of change would blow and the storms of truth that we would unleash upon them when the timing was right, divinely orchestrated, and perfectly timed, that is. That time is now. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. We are the ancient ones returning, remembering, activating to set right what has been wronged. And guess what? This time we are the victors. We get to rewrite the books and rewrite time. You'll see. And if you don't see it yet, it'll just be a matter of time before you do. When we all have the courage to walk away from the systems that work to enslave us, they just simply cease to exist. That's it. It's as simple as that. And it's really easy. And I know there's a lot of people that can't see this. And honestly, that doesn't really surprise me all that much because that's where we're at. That's where humanity's at. Innocent children are still being killed. Humanity is still being genocided. Peoples are still persecuted and massacred for their religious beliefs. Not much has changed, but yet everything has. Both realities existing simultaneously. I want to take this moment to thank Jose Arguelles and his invaluable work and contribution to humanity. God bless his soul. And he said it best when he said, we are all in the middle time. That is, when you're setting your appointments, you can't tell your doctor, fine, I'll be there on the galactic moon Limi 13. Well, at least not yet, we can't. And that's why his system is brilliant, because it links the current crappy fake calendar with the real sky clock, makes it so much easier to follow. And with that, I leave you. That's my little rant and our return to sacred time. I can see it so clearly, like with that cross, that's the grand cross of the Knights Templar. That means so much, and there's so much more I can say on this, but I just have to end this now, and I thank you all for being here. I want you to remember that you are a beloved soul. You are a beloved soul of God, and I want you to remember this. We are souls before we are human. And like the Bible says, we are spirit before we are flesh. And in this incarnation, we are changing time and we are changing how we perceive reality. And I'd never want you to forget how special you are and how loved you are. May you be blessed. Thank you for being here. If you like my work, please like and subscribe. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Do you think this is great? Are you excited about changing over back to our ancient and sacred calendar? Or do you like the one that is in place? Let me know your thoughts. Stay blessed, beloved souls, and I am wishing you all of the best for this year ahead.